I want to jump into this here by first kind of giving a point of view or an opinion on something that I think it's a lot of people disagree with me on, and a lot of insurance agents look at what I say or hear what I say on this particular topic, and they don't agree. And I think it's perfectly fine. I love when we can have a discussion about these sort of topics. But I want to start by saying by making 2 points, and they kind of feed into the other. The first point is I think it's really important. It's critical that insurance agents, local insurance agents, get involved with doing paid advertising in their agency. And what I mean by that, simply put, is you should be doing Google ads, you should be doing Facebook ads, you should be doing paid ads on some digital platform. I think this is something that every agency needs to have going. And the reason why is, I mean, you need to force the hand of some of these platforms to show your content or to show up, whether it be a Google search or whether it be a Facebook ad. I think just the idea of making content consistently and hoping that that content gets ranked and that people are going to go to Google and they're going to search best insurance agent in Sandusky, Ohio, and that your content's going to rank there and it's going to get picked up. I think that is a very long-term strategy, maybe too long-term, when in reality I think that you're better served just by running ads and forcing the hand of Google pay to play to get at the very top of that search result. I think agents need to be doing that. All right. I think you should have been doing that in 2015. Should have been doing that in 2016. We're now in 2022 going into 2023. I think it's table stakes nowadays. Here's the problem, and here's where the opinion comes in. I don't think insurance agents should be the one doing this. And Nick, I'd love to get your opinion on this, even if it's something that's different. I don't think insurance agents should be doing their own marketing. One of the kickbacks that I hear a lot of agents say when I give this opinion is they'll say, I don't want to hire a marketing agency either because I've been burned in the past, or I'm afraid, and this is a version of what they'll say, I'm afraid that marketer or that marketing agency or whoever, if I delegate this off to a professional, they're not going to be able to understand my customers. They're not going to be able to understand what I do. They don't understand insurance. They don't understand. They're not going to be able to write. It doesn't sound like me. And I get a lot of this kickback. And that's why you, as the insurance agent, think, I'm going to go dive into this. But there's a few problems here. One, if this were 2014, 2015, I'd say you should probably be doing this stuff. And that's where you saw the advent of all these online courses coming out, showing you how to run Facebook ads, showing you how to do digital marketing. It was a lot easier then. It was a whole lot easier back then. You could just run an ad and it would be effective for the most part. We don't live in that reality anymore. That reality is gone. It's never coming back. Ever. It's a lot harder to advertise on Facebook, on Google, on Instagram, on YouTube, all these things. It's a challenge. It's hard with privacy laws, with the technical skill needed. You can't do it anymore. At least you shouldn't be doing it anymore.
They shouldn't be.
And what insurance agents will say is they'll say, I think that I should be in charge because I understand insurance. I have my designations. I have a really good marketer who knows nothing about insurance yet. Their marketing will far outperform your marketing skills if you're a good insurance agent with little marketing chops.
Yep.
When I talk to agents and they're like, I'm going to take charges, I'm going to do it, it's going to be on me, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to do this in my agency. To me, what I hear is the same equivalent action that when your customers who don't know anything about insurance try to shop for insurance policies online. It's no different to me. They know nothing about insurance and they're going to go buy insurance online, and we as an industry tell them that's not a good idea. You should have me do it because I'm a professional.
Yeah, I agree.
This is the same attitude that agents will have when they'll say, well, I want to do the marketing in my agency. I listen, unless you love marketing, unless you have some experience in it, it's going to be hard. Nick, how long have you been doing marketing?
Probably 10 years since.
Okay. A decade.
Yep.
Decade plus. right?
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I've been around and in and around marketing for over 2 decades in some form or fashion, whether it was content creation, whether it was behind a camera, in front of a camera, writing, not writing, on this platform, on that platform. I still feel like a novice.
Absolutely.
I still feel like I'm just scratching the surface. And that's because there's a rabbit hole that goes deeper than, Alice in Wonderland going into the other side. Like you're not finding a treasure cat or whatever that you're not finding the Mad Hatter on the other side. It's going to take you a long time to get there because there's so much to explore. And that's why I think to be effective, you should hire somebody else out. You should have somebody else who's going to do this for you. You should have a professional. And one of the things that people always say is they'll go, who do I hire? Man, I don't know. If you're watching this and if you're a great marketing agency that has proven results, 6 month plus case studies of customers, particularly in the insurance field or the financial services aspect, hit me up because I'd love to be able to say like, go hire these people. It's going to be some due diligence. You're going to have to interview a handful of agencies. You're going to have to look for things that revolve around track record, case studies, how long they've had their clients in this field. I mean, if they've had somebody who was an insurance agent as a client for 2 months, that's not good enough. You need somebody who's got, people who have clients for years or a long period of time, because that means they have some results or some success. Nick, I kind of babbled on about this, but tell me, kind of give me your thoughts on this.
I wholeheartedly agree that agencies should either hire a marketing person and give that marketing person a budget, because that's the other thing. You could hire a marketing person, but they have to have the budget to do the things. And then I talked to a lot of agencies. A lot of agencies were coming out of captive and going independent. And the first thing all of them end up getting sold on is SEO services.
Yeah, that's
a component, a long-term component of a marketing strategy, not the first thing you do. But I've been saying it for years that insurance agents want to be the professionals and advisors to their clients. They need to hire professionals and advisors for their marketing, because it's something 10 years. I look at our ad account some days and go, man, why did this change? What changed? Why isn't this working? And then we have to dive into it and then go, okay, well, this is why this isn't working, and let's fix this route.
Let's talk about this point, because and we had some questions coming in on this, and I'm gonna get to these questions, these responses that people are typing in real time. We're gonna answer these, but I want to set the foundation as to where this point of view comes from. I have agents, and I had one recently, just as of the last week, message me on LinkedIn. I've never met this person before in my life. I don't know who this person is. They messaged me. They're an independent insurance agency owner, and they're going, hey, I have this idea for a campaign, and I want to get your thoughts on it. And I have this opinion, but I'm again, this is a stranger. I'm sure, send me the idea. Happy to talk about it with you. And the idea was, hey, I want to launch this campaign. I specialize in auto and home insurance. Okay, like everybody else, I specialize in auto and home insurance, and I'm trying to generate more leads for my agency. So I'm going to do this campaign where I'm going to target women who are married about insuring their engagement ring or their wedding ring. And then it's going to lead to a form where they're going to fill out information, and then they're going to want to talk to me. And before I gave him my information, I said, look, before I give you my opinion, I need you to know that I only want to help you. Because it's going to not be a very positive response that you're going to get. Number one, when you say campaign, your campaign should be more than just one channel. It should be more than just Facebook ads. And this is, again, when we talk about what I see as like broader mistakes being made and things that you could avoid, is a campaign should be, one, bigger. It's a campaign. It's not just a tactic. And you shouldn't be and after I coached him on, I said, hey, look, I don't think this is a good angle. I don't think it's going to work in theory or in execution. I think the copy's bad. I think the offer's bad. I think it only enhances what people are naturally wanting to do, and that's procrastinate. I don't think anybody cares enough. You're not gripping them enough. And so a campaign should just be more than a Facebook ad. It should be a Facebook ad that leads to it could lead to a form that leads to a direct mail piece, that leads to text messaging, that leads to email automation, that leads to all these things. And what we've done in marketing, and what marketing now feels like, is it just feels like this single channel approach. And if you're thinking about the word campaign, you should think about all these different things. If this and that, we're going to, just like when I watch like old movies that have war scenes, right? And they have like a 45-minute war scene or whatever the case, they're sending in the front line, then they're sending in the cavalry, and then they're doing this flank. That's how you want to think about it. Obviously, I was never in the military. Nick, you were in the military, but you can probably speak more intelligently to this. It's all of these different things working at different times to accomplish or to win the battle. It's not just this one thing. And when I talk to agency owners about, hey, those ones who are like dead set, I don't have the ability to hire somebody. I'm gonna do this, or I have somebody in my office. I went to the community college and I hired somebody for $12 an hour because they were good at Instagram. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a professional.
Yep.
And like a professional is going to be able to come in, do the research. They're going to be able to understand. They're going to be able to speak the language. A good marketer does research. And they're going to be able to put together full campaigns that rely on many different things at many different times to do that. If that analogy wasn't good enough, let me give you one more, and then I'll shut up. I put on Facebook yesterday that it's never too early to prep for Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year. I love Thanksgiving. This year, my light's tripping out in the background. This year, I'm going to make, for the first time for Thanksgiving, I'm going to make gumbo. So I'm researching and I'm watching videos of, hey, this person probably looks like they know what gumbo tastes like. Because I love gumbo when I get it in stores, but I've never made it. So I'm watching all these videos and they're talking about you've got to do all these different steps at different times to get the gumbo. You start with the roux. That's got to cook down. You got to do, then you do this. And then when this is done, you do this and you do that. It's like making a big pot of stew. It's not just one tactic, one strategy. It's based on timing and layers and all this stuff. And that's what you got to start thinking about when you're thinking about marketing. But better yet, when you hire somebody who should be doing this, who's a professional, a real professional, they're gonna do it. That's part of what makes them a real professional. Is they're gonna do the research and they're gonna know when to pull levers, when to do certain things or the other. All right, we got some questions here, but Nick, before we get to those, give me your final thoughts on that.
You're absolutely right. I was just thinking a good analogy for this would be like, your gumbo. Your gumbo could take if you want great gumbo, you have to do multiple steps. You could throw everything in a crock pot and get gumbo, but it's not going to taste. It's not going to be as good. It's not going to be great.
That's going to be Walmart gumbo.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, campaigns are multi-level, multi-strategy components. It's multiple tactics wrapped up into multiple strategies on different platforms and different tools. It's social media, it's paid social, it's paid search, it's paid video, it's email, it's texting, it's direct mail, whatever. All those things combined will lead to long-term success.
So we have a point being made here, and he's wrapping it into a question. And one thing, if you guys are watching this, and I'm going to try my best because I don't want to assume that you guys want me to say your name, so I'll just say your first name. If you're like, hey, it's okay to say my name, just put that in your questions and when you submit them. But Derek asks, he wants to know, starts with a statement, and he says, I would love to do this, but whenever I delegate, my cost per lead increases by 30%, and my number of leads decrease like crazy. Who's good? Okay, I'll tell you my initial thoughts to this. But if you want to give me more, if you want to chime back in, Derek, and give me more context, happy to try to work this with you a little bit. We don't know who you hired, but let's just assume that they somewhat knew what they were doing. 2, how long did you give them to get results? I think this matters because what a lot of agency owners will do, I've seen this in just talking with people, and they'll reveal this. They'll hire somebody for a month or 2 months or even 3 months, and they'll think that that's enough time. And in some cases, you can get some results, but not enough time. And the marketer has to also they have to kind of get in there and taste the soup too and figure out, okay, we need more salt here, right? So I think without knowing how much time you gave them, there might be a point where it could dip a little bit, but that there's a learning process. There's a learning process with the marketing team. There's a learning process with the ad platforms. If they're new ad platforms or new ads that are running, they've got to learn. These platforms run on algorithms and they're learning algorithms, and the number of leads decrease like crazy. What I'd also love to know more about is, what was the final result of a lot of those leads? Because I've talked to agents, and I'm sure you've seen this, Nick, where they'll get 100 leads and they'll look at that as the metric, but they closed and they ran some giveaway ad, they ran something or whatever the case might be. They closed 2 of them.
Yeah.
They got 100 leads. And I've talked to others where they paid more for the price of the lead. And also, Derek, I'd love to know what the target market is. Insurance, just auto insurance, is pretty competitive. You're competing with billion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
And I'm not sticking up for the marketer. It could be that the marketer just wasn't very good. That doesn't change. I don't think that doesn't change my perspective. There's good insurance agents. There's bad insurance agents.
Yep.
Just good and bad in every industry. So, and there are those who are better than others. But what was the closing ratio of the less leads? I mean, I'm sure you probably wouldn't be typing in if they were great. So we'll just go ahead and assume that the closing ratio on those wasn't good, or the quality of leads wasn't very good. And we can say that quality can be subjective from one agent to another, but we'll just say it wasn't very good in this case. Without having a lot of context, I would still say it doesn't necessarily change my perspective that you should hire professionals. It might mean you need a different professional. It might mean that there needs to be more time given to the professional that you got. I don't know what the context was. I don't know how much you gave them. But there are levels to it all. And like I said, man, if I knew, again, I'm putting this out there. If you're an ad agency, and you do this, I'd love to talk to 10 of them, because I'd like to be able to say, like, hey, I think these guys know what they're talking about. I think they know. I think they know what they're doing. We don't do it. People always think, are you trying to position yourself to sell this? No, I have no desire. We were talking about this before on the call, Nick. I have no desire to run an ad agency ever in my life. But I still think that they serve a good purpose. They're valuable. I just don't want to do it.
I do have something I want to add to this. So
Yeah.
one of the first things when I came on the company, one of the first things Nick did is he gave me what we consider our marketing qualified lead formula. When you're doing
talk about a MQL. Just break down what an MQL is.
MQL is marketing qualified lead. So it's a set of parameters of how you judge your inbound leads. So you go in, you look at your leads, you look at all of the information, as much information as you can. Now everybody should understand, I'm a spreadsheet nerd. So the first thing I did was I downloaded our entire lead list, and I started looking at the things that were successful leads for us. And so what we did is set a minimum standard of parameters of a good qualified lead. And it's, for us, it's, we're P&C agency focused on, primarily personal lines. Those are our parameters. For an insurance agency, you're same thing. You want to set some parameters of what a qualified lead looks like. And that should be your marketing team's judgment. That's how you should be judging. So, and then you look at cost, and then you break it down of what was that lead acquisition cost of your MQLs, of your marketing qualified leads. And it, I guess off the top of my head, it's a homeowner with an auto, and they're not looking for a monoline client. That would be my MQL.
Right. And that's up to you to define as an agency owner. You got to
Yep.
define what it is. Everybody, a lot of agents kind of all say they want the same thing. I talk to a lot of agents and I'll go, what's your primary target? They'll go, I want a homeowner with 2 cars and maybe a young driver in the house, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people do. Take that for what it's worth. I love this next question. We're going to get into the questions here. I love this next question from Drew. And I think this would be something we can riff on, Nick. He says, is there still value in a newsletter style bulk email strategy? If so, what are the best practices for today's marketplace? I'm going to let you answer that, because I think we've talked a little bit about this just on our own conversations.
Yeah. So I struggle with the thing about newsletters could work. The thing is, you have to be consistent. You have to deliver quality content. Now, if you have if you have somebody who's connected in your community, who is a good writer and can source information that you can send out regularly, yeah, do it. Absolutely. It would be really cool. The value isn't in, you're not going to sell a lot of insurance from it immediately. It's being connected in your community, being the source of information for your community. Absolutely. Great way to generate goodwill in your community, and which will eventually drive business. But it's tough. Like I pitched us doing a newsletter, and I'm like, I don't want to write it though.
Yeah. You know where I think we've talked about this. Again, I love it when I see these older tactics kind of come back into the forefront. Everything kind of works on a pendulum. And so I'm always like leery when people say XYZ tactic is dead. It's not true. I think newsletters, if I were to do a newsletter, to Nick's point, you got to find someone who's going to write it. But I would change kind of like how I think about the newsletter, and I would try to get people to opt in, and I wouldn't do an email newsletter. I would do a physical newsletter. I would send it to their mail. And I'd make it something where if it's done well, and by done well, I mean it's got good insight, it's got valuable content, and I'm sending it to a niche market. So let's say I was in a niche market for, it could be like so we'll go back to the MQL. A good MQL is somebody who we've identified them via some qualitative or quantitative research that they have investment accounts. We believe that they have an investment account over this. So we believe them to be high net worth. I'm just naming a niche. So run with this if you want to, but apply the same logic. Identifying who they are in a particular niche, and then sending them content that is within that niche's parameters. Pull the curtain back here a little bit. On our Better Agency YouTube channel, we rarely, if ever, talk about Better Agency. Hardly ever. We don't need to. And YouTube is one of the highest sources for new customers for us. We don't evangelize the customer. We evangelize the category. We talk about what we believe to be the bigger thing, which is agency success. Showing you how the sausage gets made here a little bit. But I think this is valuable. This is good insight, because I think these same principles should be put in your agency. So let's say it's high net worth people. I don't necessarily just want to write articles about and give my own journaling, because that's how I probably would do the style. It'd be more like a journal. I wouldn't do it around like the 3 things that you should know about protecting your $3 million house.
Yeah.
There might be some aspect to that somewhere in my writing, but I'm talking about the things that really matter to the overall customer. And I'm sending that out with insights. I'm getting experts. I'm asking experts in the field. It doesn't just have to be insurance. I'm going to people who manage hundreds of millions of dollars in investment funds. I'm asking them to write something. I'm asking respected people in the community, in that broader community, to come and contribute. It's a strategy. It's a hard strategy, and I love it if you could pull it off. But I preferential. I probably would do a physical newsletter, because nobody else wants to do that.
Well, there's a reason Russell Brunson bought Dan Kennedy's newsletter. If you don't know who Dan Kennedy is, he is the king of direct response marketing. And he bought Dan Kennedy's. It hasn't been Dan Kennedy's in years, but everybody knows it's his. Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels bought the No BS newsletter. There's a reason for that. And because everybody, I wish I just cleaned my desk off. I have a stack of them from when I was a member 6 years ago that I still refer to on a regular basis.
They're just cool to have in your hand.
Yeah. And yeah. I remember the first version of it where it was stapled pieces of paper. They migrated to a magazine and everybody hated it. And they reverted back to printed copy paper, stapled and mailed.
I just think there's something, when someone thinks something is dead, because they typically want to sell you something else, but also they're saying that because very few people are doing it well. So like a physical newsletter could be a cool idea. Again, I would change it. I would make it look less like a newsletter and more like expert secret, journalings.
Yep.
right? And it's all in how you frame it and how you position it.
As a marketer, I'm a huge boron letters nerd.
Mm-hmm.
You can get them all online. For a long time, I would go out and just print them.
Yeah.
Just to physically have them. But yeah, a physical newsletter, I think, would be a killer for the right niche.
It goes back to a campaign deploying a lot of different tactics. It's not just one. And what you should identify, Drew, does this make sense? Is there a business case where it makes sense where I send them a physical newsletter for this market? If you're writing, I'm going to go to the extreme here. If you're writing renters and HO4 policies, probably not much of a business case, like an economic business case, because it's going to take you time and money to produce that, right? Is there meat on the bone? So that's kind of what I would think about. We'll move on to the next question here from Richard. What are your thoughts on lead providers? Like, I guess we can name drop the companies. We'll name drop the companies. If they have a problem with it, they can get mad at us. What are your thoughts on lead providers like Smart Financial, Quote Wizard, EverQuote? Should we be focusing our marketing on search? I feel like there's two questions here. So that's one question. What are your thoughts on lead providers? Should we be focusing our marketing on search, display, social, and other mediums instead of buying leads? So I'm gonna start at the front here. What are your thoughts on lead providers? You can make lead providers work. Here's the problem. I think we all know what the inherent problem is with buying leads from lead providers. Is you're buying probably not the freshest data, and you're buying data that was passed around to 15 other people, and you're buying low intent stuff for the most part, because a lot of these leads, they could be leads because they fill out a form because they were simply trying to get more points on their Candy Crush. Right. So the intent is low, which typically leads to somebody who isn't trying to solve a particular problem other than maybe just price. And that's not a negative, but that's something you should know. The value proposition isn't properly connected, and therefore the intent can be low. I know some agents who just have success with leads. It's a numbers game, but what I found to be the commonality between those agents who have success with buying leads, they're typically call center type shops. They have just like their business model, and I'm not hating on it because it's whatever it is for them. Their business model is just to churn and burn and just go through leads, and and they're gonna process 10,000 leads in a week. The regular insurance agency that's got 2 or 3 producers they're trying to feed may not be good. And what some agents will say is, well, it keeps them busy. Well, I can name a lot of things that will keep people busy. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the stuff they should be doing.
Oh, it kills me.
So, I mean, I'm not a fan of that. So we'll answer the two questions here, but that particular question, I'm not a fan of it.
I'm not a fan of buying leads. Is there a business case for it? Absolutely. I would say there's other strategies I would play if I was in marketing in an agency that wanted to buy leads. It's a long-term play of being there with, because the thing a lot of people forget is less than 5% of the people you are communicating with on a regular basis are in the market to buy right now, or in a position they're ready to buy right now. It's that 95% is where the long-term value is. But it's a long-term play, and you have to have patience. I'm talking like data acquisition it could be 2 years before they're ready to buy. So you have to stay in front of them for 2 years, which can get expensive if you're not closing a lot up front. So there's strategies and tactics I would apply there, but and then you got to start doing cold emailing and everything else. Because I wouldn't send an email on my domain to a purchased lead. Period.
Yeah.
So that's my standpoint on bought leads.
So should we be focusing on marketing on search, display, social, and other mediums instead of buying leads? The answer is yes. Yes. To all of them. Now, I think the nature of your question is what should I be focused on? Should I be focusing on search? Should I be focusing on display, social? My general answer is yes to all of it. But I do recognize that there are going to be certain things that are going to be better for you in your use case. I'll tell you what I am kind of all in with right now. Again, and tactics can change. It's a part of the overall strategy, but the tactics can flip-flop with time. There was a time when $2 Facebook leads were like printing money. It's not so much the case anymore. It could come back around, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do Facebook, but again, tactics can change, and you could just like I'm using a lot of cooking analogies. I can have something on the high heat for a second, and then move it over to simmer, and then bring it back to high heat later on. So keep that in mind as I answer this. But what I'm really kind of like all in on is I'm all in on organic YouTube content, and you can replace YouTube content with a podcast. It's whatever, pick your flavor. I prefer YouTube because one, I love video. I just that's my preference. I feel like it's the harder barrier to entry than podcasting, so there's less people who do it. Anybody can just get behind a microphone with no video and just talk. And it's one of those, I'm going to zig when they zag. I feel like a lot of people do podcasts because it is a lower barrier to entry. So I do video. I do organic, long-form content on YouTube. But the other thing I do is, and that's free. When I say free, it costs you your time. But I do that, and it's organic. The other thing I'm really strong on, as far as like opinionated right now today, is YouTube Shorts. So 2022 and 2021, everyone was honking the TikTok horn. And I still think TikTok it's great. It's got, just like there's no right or wrong here. It's my forecasting opinion that YouTube Shorts is going to eat away at that, if not almost kind of like make it Snapchat. And the reason why I have this opinion is because YouTube has come out and said, we're prioritizing shorts. Like, we're going to start like making that hot because they want to compete with TikTok. But they've also come out and said, starting January, we're going to pay 45% of the revenue to creators. So what it's going to do is it's going to bring all the TikTokers to YouTube.
Yep.
And that means more of the eyeballs are going to go to YouTube. And YouTube has already said, we're prioritizing this. So I like YouTube short content. Just think of like TikTok style videos, putting that on YouTube. Required like no production. It's quirky. It's dumb. There's an insurance agent, and he's not an independent agent. But I would encourage you guys to follow this guy. And I'm gonna probably butcher his last name, Nicholas Ayers from Las Vegas. He's an Allstate agent. He does tremendous with that, with insurance TikTok style videos. Phenomenal. He's great at it. Probably somebody I would like model I would look at and be like, ooh, that's really good. And he's not an independent agent yet. If he's watching this, there's no conspiracy there. I always tell him he should be an independent agent, just because I like independent agents. So I'm bullish on that stuff. I think that stuff is going to be that's where I would be focusing my time, is content on those channels, and then I would be doing that to create buzz, create demand, create that, and then I would be going to channels like Google search, and I know it's expensive, but I feel like it's where you got to play, and I would figure out ways I can try to kind of get around the super competitive stuff, get on the fringes of things, and be a place where I can capture demand. Capture what people are searching for in a paid way, and I'd try to get quotes. I would do, ads that don't just take them to my homepage, but I have a special landing page that matches the ad, and I'm trying to get people to click to call, like click here, call the office immediately, that type of stuff.
Oh yeah,
I'd be doing that.
Yeah. I think all of those things are right. The thing I would say is if you're trying to transition, or you're doing purchasing leads right now, start taking some of that budget and apply it. Pick a channel, get really good at one channel, do one thing really well. Don't try to eat the whole damn elephant at once. Take some bites and get good at one thing, or hire somebody who's good at one component, and then start adding it. Marketing is an investment like compound interest. The things you do today that you do consistently will pay off in ways you won't even understand until you get it, until you see it. So those pick a focus on search, learn search, or hire somebody who's good at search. That's where I would like if I would say let's focus on search.
Yeah.
And then you can also start creating. Don't be afraid to suck at video. We first did that a couple times. When Nick and I record videos, I'm like, oh my God, I hate this, because I haven't done video in such a long time that I'm out of practice. So it's just trying to get myself back into the rhythm and pumping up my charisma and, doing all the stuff that's not normal to me. But it takes time. And then the last video was much better. It's not as many takes, and it only took us like 20 minutes to record a 4-minute video.
You know what I say? People tell me all the time, like, man, they'll say something nice. They'll say something, oh, your videos are good or whatever. And that's nice to hear. But I always tell them, look, you only see the good stuff. Like, my 8-minute video was an hour-long video clip that I had to where I had to do a lot. And I've been doing video for a long time. The stuff that made that was on the cutting room floor, I took an hour-long clip and turned it into 7 minutes. You only saw the good stuff. I mean, that's when you're editing, right? And that's because I put a lot of thought into it. When I'm just out and about making videos, or when I'm doing video responses to comments on Facebook, or I'm doing whatever, I don't care. When I'm doing this, I don't really care how polished it is. I'm just having a conversation. It's different than a long form video content where it's on that. I'm trying to make it fit a certain platform style, if that makes sense. Like a Facebook Live or a TikTok video or any of that stuff, I don't really care as much because that's what fits the platform better. Yeah. Whereas, a produced video is different.
Yeah. Overproduced stuff on social media, everybody's tired of it. They want the raw, I've just pulled out my phone and recorded a video, or just set up my tripod and recorded a video and I'm sending it.
Derek, whose question we answered earlier about, hey, he hired somebody, he saw an increase in cost and a decrease in volume. He followed back up. So I want to kind of give some context to what he said and see if it maybe changes how we answer this a little bit. So the niche is manufactured home insurance, which, by the way, Derek, I'm releasing a video on Monday on our channel where and if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, go back and look for this. There's a company I'm talking about that's new to the scene. That's what they do. They're very agent-friendly, manufactured home insurance. I think they're doing some really cool stuff. So he does manufactured home insurance. We talked about how long is he giving them, what's the runway he's giving these companies. He's never done anything less than 6 months. Great, perfect, check. His close ratio has stayed pretty consistent. Cool, check. Totally expected the dip. It dipped for about the first 2 months, and then it started to settle. But it was more expensive, and it was less. I'm assuming less volume, less quantity, less leads. I don't know that it changes my perspective that you still should have a professional do this. It goes back to maybe it wasn't the right professional. It's possible. Giving someone 6 months, 8 months, a year, a good person, a good marketer is going to have that more or less figured out. So I probably would move on from somebody, or I'd evaluate who is doing it personally. It doesn't change my perspective that you should still have a professional do it. I think your time is better served not pulling digital levers, running ads, and trying to come up with all this stuff and analyze analytics and optimize landing pages and ads and look at negative keyword lists and this and that. You shouldn't be doing that. Again, there's a lot that goes into it. And I'm not trying to make it something I'm not trying to overinflate it. But I am telling you, there's a lot that goes into it. Just running Google ads between keyword themes, ad groups, negative keywords, search intent, auction placement. There's just a lot. So you just probably maybe need a different professional. And again, I'd love to be able to refer some quality agencies. So somebody hit me up, and happy to have a meeting with you and vet you. Any thoughts on that? Final thoughts before we move on to the next question?
I would say, what changed with what you were doing to what they were doing? And how could you take make an SOP, a standard operating procedure of what you were doing that was 30% less, and teach somebody else how to do that and just take it off of your plate? Is what I would do. If you go, why is it more expensive? We're getting less. What changed? What was the difference? Because then if you have something that's working, why not just teach somebody else to do it?
Yeah. He responded back and said he totally agrees. It's just frustrating. I get it. I'm going to be real here. I think I'm pretty good at what I do. I'm not like the greatest. I'm just allow me to like frame this a little bit. I do think I'm decent at what I do. Sometimes I have ideas for campaigns and ads. I go, man, this is gonna hit. This is gonna be great. And then we launch it, and it bombs. It sucks. And I go, man, maybe I'm not so good at this anymore. like, I mean, my point is I think we've all been there in different phases of whatever we do. I don't care if you're cooking a tri-tip. Like, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be great. And then you're like, oh, that sucked. And then the flip side has also happened, where I'm like, well, we'll put this out there, and then it does well. And so there's the ebb and flow of this, right? And even professionals don't always, they don't always get it. Hall of Fame baseball players, they hit like 300.
That means 700 they missed.
Right. So I get that it's frustrating. I understand. But to Nick's point, what I would do, Derek, is I would go back and I'd evaluate what was working before, what changed, and I'd compare and contrast. And you really shouldn't be doing that. Your marketer should be doing that. I mean, you should inform them and say, hey, look, we were getting these leads. I'm just going to name a price. We were getting these leads at like $15 a pop, and we were getting like 50 of them a month. Now they're like $50 a month, and we're getting like 10 of them. Can you see what's up? So they should be able to do that. And if they can't, that's just they're interviewing for the job every single day. So you might need to look elsewhere.
Yep.
So we have another question here. Brett wants to know, how would you recommend building a niche via marketing? I'm a toaster broker. I think it's a cool term. I'm a toaster broker working on whatever pops up. Heyo. Okay. I just made a 22-minute video on niche marketing on our channel. I would encourage you to go watch that, but I'll kind of give you the TLDR, too long didn't read type points of that. I think there's something very telling here when you say I'm a toaster broker working on whatever pops up. I think that is a mindset that I would encourage you to change. You can't dip your toes in stuff. You can't dabble. If you're going to be in a niche, you got to be in the niche. You got to be like, I'm committed to this. Through the good, through the bad. I'm not in this and then going, okay, while I'm in it going, what else pops up here? I would not do that because you got to be committed to it. But I make some points in this video that I think are important. And one is, I hear a lot of people talking about niche marketing and they'll say, you should go do what you love. No. Probably not. I love a lot of things. That doesn't mean that I should be thinking about insurance on it. I don't want to ruin what I love, but B, that doesn't mean that it's even profitable. It may not even be worth my while to go do. So that's a few things. I would be looking at what is profitable, what doesn't have a red ocean around it where everybody's fighting over it. So when someone says I do auto and home, yeah, okay, yeah, it's a red ocean. There's sharks and blood in the water all around that. I'm not saying you shouldn't have that as a component, but think about what is more of a blue ocean and what has marketability. There's a market there to serve. So, and then compare and contrast with the market access. Are there carriers that even write this? Is there only one carrier? I'll give you an example. I know, and I've talked to agents in the past, and they'll say I focus on aviation, which I think sounds cool. Sounds like that's profitable. Can be, because I bet it's really expensive to insure airplanes. I go, oh, who are your carriers? And they'll say, oh, I only have Arlington Row for that. And I go, well, what happens if they decide they're not going to do that anymore? I mean, are you just SOL? You have no other, nothing? If there are 2 or 3 players in the market, that's good. That's solid. I think that's another thing to look for. So I would encourage you, Brett, to go watch that video. It's 22 minutes. I go pretty deep on niche marketing. So, man, that's the last that we have of the questions.
Pretty sure I sent that one to him.
You know who Brett is?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean that's all that we have for the questions. I'll give this just a minute here. We'll stay live here. I mean, we're right at about an hour, so I feel like this was a good session, but we'll be on here for another few minutes. We'll be looking at each other's eyes to the camera. And I want to give people a chance to ask more questions. We will have this on replay. I'm going to cut this end off, or at least we'll edit it to where we just get to the questions. We do have another question. Nick, when you put yourself out on social, you expect to get some negative marketing to come from it. How do you handle this? It's a great question. I'm going after a niche, and the people I go after are mostly on LinkedIn. Do you have experience with LinkedIn ads and have advice, or have someone that you feel does it very well? All right. I do love this question. I do realize that I play with a two-edged sword, and I'm a lot better than I used to be, I think. But I put myself out there on social. I put my opinions out there. When I say opinions, not just about like life in the world. That's there. I'm talking more or less about my opinions about my opinions about the industry or perspective. And sometimes I could be more provocative because I'll say things like, I'll talk bad about legacy systems, not usually by name, but I'll talk about the way things are. And inevitably, like, that burns bridges. It's a two-edged sword because it also has a lot of people who see that point of view, which is, I'm looking for beacons and fences. I'm looking to take my perspective, my point of view, which I don't say is gospel truth. It's not like concrete, but it is my perspective and my opinion. And with it, I want to put it out there to where it's a beacon for people who believe the same. And it's also a fence for those who I'm like, I don't really want you anywhere near me. When I say them, I mean like, I don't want that perspective. And so it is a two-edged sword. There is negative that comes from it. How do I handle it? Some days I handle it really well. Some days I relish in it. Some days I love it. I love it when people like get mad at me or when I hear the scuttlebutt from whatever. I love it. I'll be honest though, I'm a human being. And there are some days where it's really discouraging. And it sucks. And there are some days where I go, or I think to myself, if I didn't say those things, maybe we'd be in a different situation. Depends on the source and depends on probably other variables in my day and mood. But you just gotta take it. You gotta have thick skin. My general platitude is, and general feeling about it is, I'd rather 20% of the people love what I say and 80% to hate it, than for 100% of the people to be like, who cares?
Yep.
Like, it's vanilla. It's nothing. It's white noise. I don't have an opinion on it one way or the other. There are companies in our space. I'll bring this down to better agency level. There are companies in our space where they're probably great. I mean, like, they're part of what I consider to be somewhat of the archaic way, the old way, V1 of things, like from, eons and decades past, that say nothing. They take no stance. They take no position about the industry or whatever, and that's fine. That's a strategy. But I also don't see people really loving them, and I don't see people hating them. And they can be fine with that. They're middle of the road. I choose to say I'd rather have some people passionate and some people talking whatever than for everybody to just be like, I don't have any opinion. Yeah. So that's my personal. That's just me. And I'm not saying that everybody should be that way. But that falls more in line with me. I do think business owners, like this person, should have opinions. Right? You should have, because it's your opinions that are going to create kind of that foundational positioning that you have. So if you see a problem that your customers face, you should be vocal about it, right? Because it's part of your foundational positioning that draws people to. It's that beacon, it's that fence. And again, it doesn't have to be, you're not writing the fourth epistle of John here. So it doesn't have to be, you can say like you reserve the right to change this opinion at some point, but this is the current reality. So I think that's fine. Okay. Wants to know about LinkedIn. So kudos to you for identifying where your people congregate.
Yep.
Kudos to you. Find
a market, find out where they hang out.
Absolutely. A for effort right there. That's square one. Do you have experience with LinkedIn ads? We have run LinkedIn ads. I don't think you need to run LinkedIn ads. I think LinkedIn, if you put enough compelling content out there for your audience, LinkedIn is still one of those platforms where you can get a ton of tremendous reach organically if it's the right content to the right audience. because your target market will engage. Again, putting those opinions out there, they'll engage. Birds of a feather flock together. Even people who disagree with you. If you have a well thought out, articulated position on something, LinkedIn's a great platform for you to engage with people, even those who disagree with you. And so I don't think you need to run ads. You can, but if like budget is kind of strapped, LinkedIn is still one of those platforms where I think organic reach is still really good, and you can do a lot of damage organically. Any thoughts, Nick?
I want to touch on the putting yourself out there. I also make sure you're putting yourself out there and getting out there on the fringes in your advertising. My favorite thing to do is read the comments on our ads. That's like my favorite thing to do on Monday morning.
Yeah.
But you have to put yourself
It makes you feel a lot better about your life, actually.
It absolutely does. And LinkedIn, I see people all the time with, regardless of their stance, gaining massive audiences for taking a stance on something on LinkedIn, and just is as innocuous as returning to the office. If you can start an argument on the internet, you hit gold.
We got some good questions that have poured in here. Nick, you got time? You got a cutoff point?
Yeah, no, I got time.
Okay. Holden wants to know, if you started an agency, a new agency, what niche would you go after and why, and how would you do it? Okay. I love this question. I've written stuff about this in the past, and I've kind of shared what I would do. Here's what I would do. If I started a third agency, I've started two. I did a third. I would probably, more than likely, not do any personal lines. It would be a commercial agency. Let me preface this by saying this doesn't have to be what you have to do. Okay? I'm just telling you what I would do. And going back to kind of the principles I talked about in the niche marketing video, I would do a commercial lines agency, and I would focus and I would lead with cyber solutions. That's what I would do. And my target market would be software companies. That's what I would do. Small businesses, but I would lead I'd have probably different categories of ideal customers, and I would try to go after software companies. I think software and the rise of software companies, if there's a lot now, there's only going to be more. So I think it's a growing market, which checks some of the boxes that I have. Cyber is kind of like the work comp of 2002, where everyone was leading with work comp or EPLI. I think there's a huge void in a lot of companies, online and offline, for cyber. If you just do the research on cyber risk, it's scary. So I would lead with that, and I would try to target online companies mainly, and I would do cyber and professional liability is what I would go after, and I'd write the corresponding commercial policies too. But that'd be the foundation of how I would do it. How would I do that? I would try to get licensed in the states with the biggest tech, for this niche, this strategy, I would get licensed in the states with the biggest tech hubs. So obviously California, Boston, Massachusetts, Austin, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Salt Lake City, Utah. Like these states where tech companies are going and thriving and flourishing, I'd get licensed in those states. And I would run marketing campaigns that were more than just ads. I'd be writing a ton of content on LinkedIn, to the previous person's point. I'd be running a lot of content on LinkedIn. I'd have my own show, probably a YouTube show, but you can also say podcast, talking about these things, bringing people in, bringing experts in from tech companies, writing on LinkedIn about what I see with tech companies, building an audience of people in tech, and then presenting my point of view. That's what I would be doing. And I'd also be running ads, right? I'd be running ads for those things around cyber events. Another reason why I like cyber personally is I feel like if there's a line of business that sees a lot of evolution and a lot of progression, it's cyber. I see it often, like this new insurtech that's agent friendly, that's offering direct cyber or cyber risk analysis and dark web searches and all that. Man, try getting that with your directors and officers insurance. Like these things don't move. Where cyber has a lot more flexibility and a lot more people are going, let's provide these tools and resources. So that's how I would do it. I'd be focusing on that type of stuff. Opinions on pizza as well, as a line of business or as a food choice. I'm going to go great as a food choice, probably one of my top 4. The opinions as far as writing it, it can be tricky. I've known people who've done this, and it's very tricky, really hard. It's a hard niche to get into. Just because you're dealing with franchise compliance and a lot of stuff. High claims, too. All right. Forgive me if I butcher this name. Gandhi? What's a good budget to start or a good percentage to put back into the company without burning out? I just started my own independent agency. What's a good budget to start or a good percentage to put back into the company without burning out? Is this a marketing department question or is this a general agency question? I'll answer it from an agency perspective. Nick, if you want to answer it from a budget, from a marketing department perspective. The agency perspective, I mean, depending on what you write and how much margins you're getting on your policies and the workload and all that stuff. I mean, for the first 6 months to a year plus, you're probably putting it all back into the agency. When I opened my first agency, I had to have a second job at night. I was a process server. Here's the story. Here's down memory lane. I was a process server the first year of owning an agency because all the money from the agency went back into the agency. And if you're not familiar with a process server is the guy or gal that knocks on the door and serves you a subpoena or a summons from court. And where I lived and where I was serving these subpoenas and being a process server, I'll just name the towns and maybe you'll catch my drift when I tell you. I was doing this after work, so at night, 7 days a week, Saturdays and Sundays. And I was doing it in Oakland, California, Richmond, California, Vallejo, California. If you're not familiar with these areas, they had a saying. And my boss told me, he said, like, when they see you walk through the neighborhood, they either think you're a cop, a process server, or somebody delivering pizza. And if you ain't got a pizza box in your hand, you're either a process server or a cop. Not a good thing. So I had to work a second job to feed my new family. We just had my firstborn son. I had to put food on the table. Single income family, because all the money from the agency went back to the agency. Without burning out, there was a lot of times I was burnt out doing that 7 days a week for a year. It sucked.
Your first year of business is always the toughest.
Yeah.
Nick,
what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about the marketing department question? If it's tied to the marketing department.
Yeah, I don't think there's a set percentage. Everybody has to look at what your profit margins are and go, what can we spend to this and maintain profitability? It's not a, hey, 3%, 7%, 15%. It's look at and it's for an insurance agency is look at your premium revenue or your premium commissions, what your split on that is, what's left over, and what you can spend or what you have invested, and look at your burn rate. And if you've got cash set aside for growth, you guys have to set what's an acceptable amount for me to spend and do it there. There's not a set number.
I'm gonna agree with that, but I'm gonna disagree with a little portion of it. Mm-hmm. Is because I think this goes back to some of the mindset issues I think insurance agents have with marketing. It's the profitability standpoint. We all want to be profitable year one. Yeah. Absolutely, we all want to be profitable year one. The only problem is some cases you're not going to be profitable. However, if you tie in different metrics into your company, which you should be looking at, and that is how long do my customers stay on the books?
Yeah.
Do they stay on for more than a year? What's the revenue from year 2? What are the revenue expansion opportunities in that existing account? Can I cross-sell other lines of business in year 1? You want to get to profitability. But if you're not profitable in year 1, that's not the end of the world for most cases, because there might be other opportunities for you to cross-sell and have revenue expansion in those accounts. Yeah. There might be other opportunities where you can get referrals from them, or they're going to renew because you have a 90% retention rate, whatever the case is, and you're going to eventually make money. You're coming out on the back end.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you think about this long term and not just like what happens in the first month or year, you didn't just get in this business to have an agency for a year. You want long-term profitability.
Yeah, I guess I should have expanded on that. Looking at like lifetime value, because if you don't know, if you're in your first year, you don't know what your lifetime value is. There are some industry standards you can look at. What's your retention rate, renew, how many referrals are you getting, what kind of cross selling are you doing, those things. Yeah, it's a looking at your life, because the saying is the person who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins, and nobody likes hearing that. Nobody likes to hear that, but that's the truth.
So we have a few other questions that have come in. However, I think some of them are trolling questions. Abe Gibson, I'm gonna say his last name. He wants to know, what do you do? What if I don't know marketing or automation? Hire professionals.
Hire it out.
I think that's all the questions that we've had. I mean, we've gone a good hour and 8 minutes. I'm going to edit this up for those of you who have watched maybe late and you've come in and you want to watch the replay. I'm going to edit this up, and we're going to put this on our YouTube channel here probably in the next week or so, just because we have other stuff that is dropping. But I think this was a great thing. I think we should do this at least once a month, where we just get on here and we answer questions live and try to bring as much as we can. I'd like to do more where we get people on here if possible, and get more in the weeds, whether it's like drawing out stuff for campaigns or looking at things that they're currently doing. I think that'd be really, really cool, really fun. It wouldn't be maybe the most fun to watch in a replay, but yeah, we go from there. So, Nick, any last words?
Hire a professional.
Hire a professional. Yeah.
Yep.
So, hey guys, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you guys again on the next thing. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you smash that like button. That's what all the kids say nowadays. And we'll see you guys again on the next video.